Hi boys and girls, welcome to math class. We are going to be working on lesson 8.9 today, so if you don't have your math workbook, go ahead and go get it. And then you're going to need a pencil and you are going to need a ruler. So get all those supplies. If for some reason you do not have a ruler, feel free to just use our lesson, my ruler, as we do this. So if you need some time to go get those things, hit the pause button and then come join us after you have everything ready to go. So let's take a look at today's lesson. We are on page 589 of our math workbooks. It says, how can a line plot be used to show measurement data? So we're going to be graphing and measuring. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to practice measuring. So let's take a look at this red string. So you want to go to your ruler. You want to make sure that you are on the inch side. Remember, the inch side goes to the 12. So you're going to put your 0 down at the edge of the string, and you're going to follow your finger all the way to where that ends. So look at the number that it's closest to. I can tell that my number is closest to the 5. So I know that that is 5 inches long. So I'm going to write 5 inches down on my paper. All right. Now I'm going to measure the yellow string. So I'm going to put my ruler down and make sure it's on the inches side. It goes to the 12. I put my ruler down. I'm going to make sure that the edge of the string is on the 0, and I'm going to follow my finger on the ruler all the way till I get to the end of the string and look at what whole number it's closest to. If you can see on mine is definitely closest to the 2. So I know that my string, that yellow string, is 2 inches long. All right. And then finally, taking a look at that last blue string, same thing. I'm going to use the inch side. I'm going to put the 0 at the edge of the string. I'm going to follow my finger all the way down, and I can see that it is closest to the 3-inch mark. All right, so we have been practicing measuring lengths in inches, and today we are going to be comparing the lengths of inches using a data form called line plots. So I enjoy line plots. I think that they're a fun way to show data. Go ahead and flip your page to page 590. It says a line plot is a way to show data. On this line plot, each X stands for the length of one pencil. So that would mean that these are the lengths of pencils in inches. All right, so that means that this pencil would be 5 inches long. There was one pencil that was 5 inches long. Here, this pencil would be 6 inches long, and we can see that 2 pencils measured 6 inches long. And then we go to the next one. We have a pencil that is 7 inches long, and we can see that there are 3 pencils that measure that long. If you go down to the 9, you can see none of the pencils measure 9 inches. So to determine what these numbers mean, you want to look at what the label is for the x-axis. So lengths of pencils in inches, and then the x stands for the length of one pencil in inches. So each of those x's stand for a pencil. How many pencils are 6 inches long? 1, 2. How many different pencils are shown on this data? So the total amount of pencils on this data, you would have to count the total amount of x's because x's mean a pencil. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there would be a total of 9 pencils on this page. All right, let's look at question number 1. Use an inch ruler. Measure and record the lengths of 5 books in inches. Okay, if you want to measure 5 books at your house to measure, you can, but before this lesson, I went ahead and I measured 5 of Riley's books up in her room. And I'm going to show you what those distances were. So if you want to measure your own books, you can. If you want to use my numbers, you can as well. So we had the first book was 7 inches. The next book was almost 10 inches. The next book was 7 inches. The next book was 8 inches, and then the next book was 8 inches. What I thought was interesting about that was I noticed that a lot of the books that are the same, like series, like all the Horrible Harry books, same inches. She reads a lot of those fairy books. Those were all the same amount of inches. So the data that I gathered were the first book 7 inches, second book 10 inches, third book 7 inches, fourth book 8 inches, fifth book was 8 inches. So we're going to make a line plot that matches this data. If you want to go measure your own books, feel free to do that. Get your ruler, go find 5 books, measure them, and write down their 5 measurements. And then you would just make your line plot to match your measurements. Okay, so it says write a title for the line plot. So what I'm going to write is I'm going to write lengths of books in inches. So lengths of books in inches. So that is the title of mine, lengths of books in inches. Okay. All right, now I'm going to look at what my smallest number is up on my data, okay? So I don't want to start at 0 because none of my books are really close to 0. So I'm going to look up at my line plot, and I see that my smallest number is a 7. So I'm going to start my data at a 7, and then I'm just going to move up by 1. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, okay? All right, so title, lengths of books in inches. These are my lengths, 7 inches, 8 inches, 9 inches, 10 inches, 11 inches. Now I have to mark down X's to represent the books. So my first book up here, 7 inches. So I'm going to put an X over the 7 inches to represent that book. And then I'm going to put a little notch up there so I know I already did that one. Okay, the next book I need to line plot is a 10-inch book. So I'm going to put an X over the 10, and I'm going to put a little notch up there so that I know that I measured out the 10. All right, the third book that I measured was 7 inches long. So I'm going to cross that one off, and I'm going to put another X on top of the first X because we have 2 X's that are 7. Okay, the fourth book is 8 inches long, so I'm going to put an X over the 8, and I'm going to cross off this one because I used that 8 one now. And my fifth book was also 8 inches, so I'm going to put an X over the 8 inches. So this line plot is interesting because I have 2 books that were 7 inches, 2 books that were 8 inches, but I had no books that were 9 inches. I had 1 book that was 10 inches, and then finally I had no books again that were 11 inches. And that is okay. If you have none of them, then you just leave that blank. You don't put any X's down. So that was our first line plot that we did, and that was measuring 5 different books. Go ahead and flip your page to page 591. All right, we are going to do the same thing except for we're going to measure pencils. So if you have 5 pencils at home and you want to measure the 5 pencils, go ahead and do that now. If you don't want to measure the 5 pencils, I measured 5 before this lesson, so I'm just going to put them up here. So the first pencil length was 6 inches, the next one was 4 inches, the next one was only 2 inches. That was a little bitty guy that I think Maddox sharpened too much. And then we had another 6-inch one, and then we had a 5-inch one. So if you want to measure your own inch or your own pencils, feel free to do that. Go get your pencils out, get your ruler out, measure 5 different pencil lengths. If you don't want to do that, you can just use my measurements for that. All right, so we're going to make a line plot. We measured our 5 pencils. We're going to write a title. So we're going to say lengths of pencils in inches. Okay, and then we are going to look at our smallest number up here. So our smallest number up there was 2 inches. That was that little one that Maddox sharpened too much. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue all the way down the line plot. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my label for the line plot. Now I'm going to put X's down to represent the pencils that measured those lengths. So the first pencil was 6. I'm going to put an X over the 6, and then I'm going to cross that one off so I know I used it. The second pencil was 4 inches, so I'm going to put an X over the 4. And then I'm going to cross that one off because that one we just used. The next one was 2 inches, so I'm going to put an X over the 2. The next one was 6 inches. I'm going to put an X on top of that other X. And finally, the fifth pencil was 5 inches, so I'm going to put an X over the 5. So my line plot looks like this. I have 1 pencil that measured 2 inches, and it's represented with that X. I had no pencils that represented 3 inches. I had 1 pencil that represented 4 inches, 1 pencil that represented 5 inches, and 2 pencils that represented 6 inches. So that was my line plot for pencils. Okay, I'm going to break here so the video is not too long, and we will finish up the next few questions on our next clip. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.